This is the Mercedes GLB. What is it? Well, technically it sits somewhere between the GLA and the GLC, although technically it's also bigger and more spacious than either of those. It also looks a bit like the Mercedes GLS and also has 7 seats. So a little bit of everything really, which is no bad thing because all things considered, this might be one of the most useful, practical and coolest family SUVs Mercedes has made in a long time.
In the UK, we'll have a choice of 2 petrol GLBs, the basic GLB 200 or the faster GLB 35, as well as 2 diesels, the GLB 200 or 220D, all available in Sport or AMG line. Prices start at £33,000 for the cheapest petrol, with the GLB 220 AMG line diesel tested here starting from around £42,000.
Right, let's have a butcher's at this thing. It's actually quite a cute little SUV this. It's got a really aggressive stance to it. The front is screaming, look at me, I'm Butch. I quite like all of this bling going on here on this AMG line version. You've got this big 3-pointed star, and then down here you've got a little bit of extra chrome going on. Along the sides, you've also got these fake vents. Interestingly, even though there is a hot version of this, the GLB 35, even on that car, these are still fake. I guess it's all about pretending that you're tougher than you really are. I know all about that. Around the side, you've got some 19-inch wheels. They look really cool, but they look a bit lost in the wheel arches because of the size of the rubber, but you know, the design's nice. Up here, you've got a little roof bar for added practicality. And then around the back, they've tried to make it look quite sporty actually. So you get this little roof spoiler up here, diffuser under here, that's adding 0 downforce, trust me. And then these mean looking exhausts. Or are they exhausts? No, they're not exhausts. They're actually blocked up completely. These are just lies, chrome covered lies. The real exhaust is actually underneath. Yeah. The interior is typical Mercedes, really. The whole thing is dominated by these twin screens up here on the dashboard. It looks like one single display, but it's actually not. It's 2 separate screens, about 10 inches each in size. The one on the right-hand side shows you all your driving data, while the one on the left gives you access to all of your media and your maps. Below that, you have these lovely triple turbine air vents with some more turbines on either side. You might recognize these elements from other Mercedes cars like the A-Class, GLA, GLC, but they've tried to make the GLB stand out by giving it its own unique touches, like this little aluminium strip on the passenger side, this aluminium strip along the center console, and some aluminium along the doors. In terms of space, it's actually not too bad. The glove box is a decent size, you can take my word for that. And here in the center console, you got enough space for just about anything you want really, plus a couple of USB-C ports. And in the center console on this retractable tray, you also have room for your mobile phone, another USB-C port, and a couple of cup holders. Very nice. In terms of ergonomics, really good as well. You've got some adjustability in the seat so you can move it up or down, forwards and backwards. And you can also adjust the steering wheel so you can have it move forward or backward or up and down away from you. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised to see a Mercedes that adjusts manually. I didn't know they still made these. Learn something new every day.
At the back end, that's where the GLB is most useful. There are 5 and 7-seater versions of the car, and both have plenty of room in the second row for up to 3 adults with lots of leg and headroom. The 7-seater model is also tremendously useful for carrying extra passengers. With all 7 seats deployed, boot space is reduced dramatically, but the third row gives you just about enough room for 2 extra people. I'm 5'11", and apart from headroom being a little bit on the tight side, I'd be just about happy enough to ride back here. Plus, all 3 rows have dedicated USB ports, cup holders, and air vents.
So, what's it like out on the road? Well, I actually really like it. I'm a big fan of the GLB, and I think the main reason is that it's just a no-nonsense car. You jump in it and there's literally no barriers to driving whatsoever. Everything is just so easy to operate, so easy to get on with. The first thing that I like is the transmission stalk. On the right-hand side of the steering wheel, you've got a stick. You pull it down to go forward, you push it up to go in reverse, and then you push it into the side, and then you go into park. That's it. There's nothing to think about. It's just nice and simple. It sounds a bit silly really, but there are too many cars out there that are just a little bit too much of a faff to move between gears. And in this, it's nice and simple, which comes in so handy when you're trying to execute a nice, cheeky, semi-illegal 3-point turn. I'm also a big fan of how easy it is to see out of this car. It might sound a bit silly, but A lot of these big SUVs can be quite difficult to see around you, but there's so much glass in this car. The A pillar, the B pillar, even the C pillar are actually reasonably thin and unrestricted in terms of what you can see outside of the car. It means that there are no real surprises. If there's a cyclist or a pedestrian creeping up on you in low-speed traffic, then you're gonna see them, no problem whatsoever. I'll mention the steering as well because that's another real highlight. It's actually really light. This is a car that you can drive around town and maneuver without having to exert any real force on the steering wheel. It just does what you want to do without you having to wrestle with it. The ride comfort, actually pretty good. This isn't a high-end Mercedes. It doesn't use fancy air suspension, but that doesn't really matter because what you find is that it soaks up most of the imperfections in the road, big or small. It's a comfortable car. The gearbox, nice and smooth, automatic of course. You just leave it and it gets on with things, no fuss whatsoever. There are a couple of times when it can seem a little bit hesitant, particularly when you're pulling out of junctions from a standstill. It takes a little while for the car to get up to speed, and that can be a bit alarming if there's someone bearing down on you. But once you're up to speed and you're moving, you barely have to think about it. But if you do want to take matters into your own hands, it has a couple of paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, and actually, you know, it's decently responsive and allows you to take the bull by the horns. And when you do that, you can actually have a little bit of fun in this car.
You can go off-road too. The car's available with the Mercedes 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, which, if nothing else, at least gives you peace of mind in winter. It's not available on the petrol models, except the top-of-the-range GLB 35, but is available for around $4,000 more on the diesels.
Acceleration in this GLB 220 is actually pretty decent. The engine makes 190 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque, so it'll do 0 to 62 in 7.6 seconds, and flat out, if you're brave enough, it'll hit 134 miles an hour, so it's actually surprisingly quick for what it is. As for handling, it's decent. It's not going to break any Nürburgring records, but even though there's, you know, a little bit of understeer, that's par for the course in pretty much every SUV these days, apart from the really high-end ones. So if you do like to drive for pleasure, I think you're going to quite enjoy this car.
Fuel economy with this level of performance is up there with the best you can get in any 7-seater SUV, hybrids not included. This GLB 220D will return 47 miles per gallon with the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, or nearly 50 miles per gallon without.
I'll just say a quick word on the technology in this car because it's actually quite clever, some of it. This isn't the world's most expensive 7-seater premium SUV, but you do get some premium touches like the Mercedes Me voice assistant. So if you say the M word, "Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?"
Navigate to Brighton. That's where I'd like to go right now in this bright
The
sunshine.
route to Brighton is being calculated.
She can also do things like adjust the air conditioner, the temperature, or change the color of your ambient lights. On the whole, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from the GLB. On paper, it's a confused little car. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but the more time I spend with it, the more I understand it and the more I actually like it. This is an incredibly practical, incredibly honest, incredibly useful, everyday family car with a nice premium badge on the front that I think most people are going to enjoy. Yeah, if you're looking for a practical family car with 7 seats with a premium badge, have a look at the GLB.